U.S. Navy SEAL Chief Mason Riker had always believed in rules, unbreakable absolute rules that separated the living from the dead. "No one hunts snipers at night," he would repeat, voice gravelly with authority, each word a hammer against the minds of rookies who had yet to see the darkness of war. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a guideline. It was survival. Cross it and you didn't just break protocol, you signed a death warrant. And yet here he was, crouched behind the twisted remnants of a Humvee in eastern Afghanistan, listening to the eerie calm that only comes before a storm. The valley below was littered with shattered concrete, rocks gouged into sharp edges, and dust that seemed to float like ghosts in the moonlight. His platoon was pinned down, eyes straining through night vision goggles, ears tuned to the faintest crack of a twig or the whisper of wind across a ridge. The first round had already come, a whispering death that struck with terrifying precision, taking out their communications antenna. 2 vehicles had already been disabled. Every movement now felt like an invitation for the unseen enemy to claim another life. Then came the sound of footsteps, soft, deliberate, eerily confident. Unlike the cautious scurrying of his SEALs, these were steps measured, practiced, unafraid. Riker's brow furrowed. Whoever it was, they didn't belong to the chaos around them. It was Staff Sergeant Lena Hart. Her reputation had preceded her, a ranger known for uncanny tracking abilities, a ghost in the mountains, capable of reading terrain like an open book and hearing the faintest disturbances in the air. She had been flown in on emergency orders, brought in because someone at command believed that if anyone could hunt a sniper in the dead of night, it was her. Riker felt his stomach tighten. "You know the rule," he murmured, voice low, almost pleading. "No one hunts snipers at night." Lena Hart didn't blink. She stepped forward, rifle slung low, eyes scanning the jagged ridges as if the shadows themselves whispered secrets to her. "Good thing," she said softly, the words carrying a weight of certainty that made Riker's jaw clench. "I'm not no one." Before he could protest further, she melted into the darkness, a silhouette against the pale moonlight, moving with a grace that made her seem almost unreal. The first shot cracked, precise, deliberate, and the world seemed to freeze. The bullet found its mark. The sniper's position revealed itself in a subtle, almost imperceptible movement. Riker's stomach lurched. Holy she actually. She was already gone, melding into the terrain like smoke curling around rocks, eyes trained, breath controlled, every motion economical and lethal. The SEALs watched, hearts pounding. This was more than bravery. It was obsession, discipline honed into a weapon. Riker, veteran of countless firefights, could barely believe the calm that emanated from her. "Where did she even learn that?" whispered Petty Officer Drew Callahan, barely audible over the distant echoes of gunfire. Riker didn't answer. He couldn't. His attention was fixed on the ridgeline where Lena had fired her first shot. Her movements were deliberate but unpredictable. She wasn't just returning fire. She was stalking, reading, anticipating. Every subtle noise, every shadow, every shift in wind seemed to communicate something only she could decipher. She crouched, fingertips grazing the dust, listening, really listening. Most soldiers heard sound. Lena Hart heard patterns, distortions, conversations hidden in the pauses between bullet cracks. It was a skill no SEAL or Ranger had ever seen executed with such precision in combat conditions. "She's mapping them," Callahan breathed, voice trembling with awe. "She's not just tracking, she's predicting." Riker swallowed hard. This wasn't just remarkable. It was terrifying. Because the sniper, whoever they were, had already demonstrated near superhuman accuracy. And yet, Lena moved as if the danger were just another variable to calculate, not a threat. The moonlight glinted off a ridgeline a kilometer away. Lena's eyes narrowed. She whispered into her comm, barely audible, "That's one." The shot came, a subtle crack, then a soft thud that echoed across the valley. Silence. The SEALs exhaled in relief, but it was short-lived. Lena didn't pause. Her head snapped to another ridge, already calculating the next trajectory, the next exposure. Snipers don't travel in teams, one young SEAL muttered, disbelief lacing his words. Tonight, Riker said quietly, voice tight, everything we know is wrong. Lena's voice cut through the radio, calm, almost detached. 9 more, she said. The words were measured, but the weight behind them settled into Riker's chest like lead. She moved again, each step precise, silent, an extension of the shadows themselves. Every soldier held their breath. Every heartbeat sounded like a drumbeat in the quiet. No one dared speak, for fear that even a whisper would betray their positions. The first sniper had fallen, but the fight was far from over. The shadows shifted. Footsteps echoed faintly, deliberately. The remaining enemies were repositioning, calculating, adapting. Riker felt a cold chill. He had fought in countless engagements, faced enemies that seemed untouchable, and yet Lena Hart's calm in the face of this impossible night made him realize this wasn't just combat. This was a chess game in the dark, and the Queen was moving. A crack of a twig to the left. Lena froze. Riker's heart hammered. He didn't need night vision to know her eyes had locked on the next threat. Move, she whispered almost inaudibly. A SEAL's voice cracked in panic. She's alone, she can't. Another shot rang out. And somewhere in the deep black valley, a body collapsed. Riker pressed his face to the binoculars, eyes wide in disbelief. Lena Hart was stalking phantoms that no one else could even see, and she was winning. The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of dust, smoke, and fear. Riker's chest tightened. He had seen heroes, seen legends, and yet something about this, about her, made him realize that the night itself was hers. And as he watched, Lena Hart stepped further into the shadows, one with the darkness, hunting 10 snipers before dawn, every shot a question no one dared answer. The first body had fallen, 9 more remained, and the night was far from over. The valley held its breath as Lena Hart moved like a shadow stitched from the night itself. Her boots crunched softly over jagged rocks, each step calculated, almost imperceptible. She didn't run. She didn't panic. She simply listened. The wind, the distant shuffle of leaves, the faintest vibration in the earth, all of it told her what the naked eye could not see. SEAL Chief Mason Riker crouched behind a shattered Humvee, heart hammering, watching Lena through his night vision binoculars. He had spent 20 years in the most lethal environments the world could offer. He had faced ambushes in the mountains of Afghanistan, firefights in the Middle East, and knife fights in urban warrens. He had seen fear twist men into ghosts, but Lena Hart was different. She wasn't fearless. She was something else, a predator whose calm made the enemy's bullets seem impotent. "She's seeing things no one else can," whispered Petty Officer Drew Callahan, eyes wide, voice tight with awe. "She's predicting them before they move." Riker didn't respond. He had learned long ago that some truths were too incredible to put into words. He simply swallowed hard, heart-pounding, as Lena's figure crept along a ridgeline far beyond effective rifle range. She stopped, her breathing steady, every muscle coiled and ready. Her hand brushed the trigger of her rifle with the familiarity of someone holding an extension of herself. A faint glint caught her eye, the moon reflecting off a scope, a flash of metal, almost invisible against the rocky backdrop. She didn't hesitate. Her finger tightened on the trigger. The shot cracked like a whip through the night. The sniper tumbled backward, unseen to anyone but her. No one heard the death but the wind, and yet the SEALs knew instantly. Lena had claimed the first kill. Riker exhaled slowly, the tension draining from his shoulders in tiny increments. And yet, as he watched, he realized she wasn't satisfied. Her head snapped toward another ridge, calculating the next target. "That's 9 more, Callahan whispered, disbelief threading his words. 9 more. She's talking like she already knows the rest." Lena crouched, fingertips brushing the dust, eyes scanning, ears straining. She wasn't just observing. She was analyzing. She could hear patterns in the chaos. The sequence of sniper rotations, the pauses between breaths, the subtle shifts in their weight that betrayed their positions. Every step she took, every motion she made, was a dance with death. The SEALs were frozen, hearts drumming against their chests as she moved deeper into the darkness, closer to the enemy than anyone should dare. "She's mapping them," Callahan breathed. "Not just tracking, she's predicting." Riker's jaw tightened. He had seen extraordinary soldiers before, men and women who could do things that seemed impossible. But Lena Hart, she was operating on a level that defied belief. The sniper pack they faced wasn't ordinary. They were professional, synchronized, and deadly. And yet Lena moved as if the night itself were an ally, the terrain a friend whispering secrets only she could hear. A faint rustle reached her ears, almost imperceptible, the subtle scraping of boots against gravel. Lena froze. Her instincts screamed danger, and yet she didn't panic. She adjusted her position, rolling behind a jagged rock, using its shadow as cover. Riker's hand tightened around his rifle, knuckles white. "Do you see it?" he hissed into his comm, though he already knew the answer. Lena's eyes, reflecting faint moonlight, scanned the ridgeline with precision. She whispered, barely audible, "Second sniper, left flank, 30 meters from that ridge." Before anyone could respond, she fired. The shot cracked like thunder in the silent valley, and the sniper went down. 2 down, 8 remaining. The SEALs exchanged glances, disbelief written across their faces. How could one person do this? How could one soldier, operating alone, systematically dismantle a network that had the training, experience, and equipment to take out an entire platoon? Lena's calm never wavered. She moved again, each step a calculation. Every sound, every shadow, every heartbeat was data. And from that data, she made decisions faster than anyone could anticipate. Riker felt a mix of awe and terror. He had trained soldiers to operate in impossible conditions. He had taught men to read terrain, anticipate enemy movements, and survive in the most lethal environments on Earth. And yet here, in the dead of night, Lena Hart was rewriting every rule he had ever known. A distant echo of footsteps reached her ears. She froze, eyes narrowing. The sniper pack was adapting. They were shifting positions, anticipating her moves. The hunter had become the hunted, and yet Lena's movements remained fluid, almost predatory. "Third sniper," she whispered. "Ridge near the boulder formation, moving slow, too confident." Her finger tightened, another shot cracked, another body fell. Riker's eyes widened. 3 down, 7 left, he murmured. The numbers were impossible, and yet there was no time to marvel. The night was far from over. The remaining snipers were no longer firing blindly. They were calculating, coordinating, trying to trap her, to predict her patterns. But Lena was always one step ahead. She moved like water, flowing through the valley, her senses attuned to every detail. A young SEAL muttered, "She's like a ghost." Riker didn't answer. He simply watched, heart hammering, as Lena Hart continued her deadly ballet. Every shot was precise, every movement calculated. The enemy was formidable, but she was something else entirely. Suddenly, Lena paused. Her eyes widened slightly. Riker's heart skipped a beat. She had heard something no one else had detected. A faint shuffle, a subtle shift in the rocks, a whisper of movement in the darkness. "She's onto something," Callahan whispered. Before Riker could react, Lena's body tensed. She adjusted her rifle, breath steady, eyes locked on a shadow that moved with purpose. The sniper pack was responding. They had realized she was hunting them. They were closing in, faster, smarter. The night was alive with the anticipation of violence. And then Lena moved again, silently, deliberately. One step, another. Her eyes never left the shadows. She was no longer just a soldier. She was the night itself, an invisible predator stalking the most lethal adversaries she had ever faced. Riker's voice caught in his throat. He had seen heroes, legends, warriors who defied odds. But Lena Hart was operating on a level beyond anything he had ever witnessed. She was rewriting the rules of engagement in real time, dancing on the razor's edge of danger with a confidence that made even the most seasoned SEALs uneasy. "Four down," she whispered, voice barely audible over the wind. Her finger tightened on the trigger again. 6 more to go. The SEALs exhaled, tension draining in small increments. And yet the fear lingered. 9 more snipers, each one deadly, each one trained to kill, and Lena was alone. Riker swallowed hard. "She's not just hunting them," he murmured. "She's studying them, learning them, predicting them." The valley seemed to hold its breath once more. The darkness pressed in, heavy with anticipation. Every shadow could conceal death. Every movement could trigger a trap. And yet Lena Hart moved forward, fearless, unyielding, unstoppable. She crouched, listening to the subtle vibrations of the earth beneath her boots, the faintest movements in the distant rocks, the whisper of the wind carrying secrets. She had one chance, one opportunity to strike before the snipers adapted, and she took it with the precision of a predator, claiming her next victim before the SEALs could even react. 5 down, 5 to go. And as she moved deeper into the shadows, Riker realized something that chilled him to the bone. The night belonged to Lena Hart now. The hunter had become a force beyond comprehension. And the hunt had only just begun. The valley had grown impossibly quiet, a deceptive calm that wrapped around the SEALs like a shroud. 5 snipers down. 5 remained, but Lena Hart didn't flinch. Her eyes were sharp, scanning the ridges and rocky outcroppings with an almost unnatural focus. Every muscle in her body was taut, ready to spring into action, ready to respond to threats invisible to anyone else. Chief Mason Riker watched from his cover, binoculars in hand. He had fought in the deadliest firefights the world could offer. Yet this solo hunt in the dead of night unnerved him more than any ambush he had ever faced. There was method in Lena's movements, a rhythm that no enemy could predict unless they were as disciplined and skilled as she was. And judging by what they had already faced, these snipers were professionals. "They're not just random shooters," Lena whispered into her calm, voice calm but urgent. "They're synchronized, rotating positions, covering each other, trained to anticipate elite operators' tactics." Riker's blood ran cold. The implications were staggering. 10 snipers operating as a coordinated pack. It was unheard of, impossible even. A lone sniper could be avoided or trapped. A team of 2 or 3 could be outmaneuvered. But 10, trained to rotate, cover, and anticipate the best-trained soldiers in the U.S. military. That was an entirely different threat. And now Lena Hart was moving through it alone. She advanced toward the eastern ridge, every step silent, careful. Dust and small stones crunched faintly beneath her boots, almost masked by the natural noise of the night, but the faintest shift in the wind carried the echoes of her presence. She adjusted her approach, angling her body behind jagged rocks, eyes darting for the slightest reflection, the tiniest hint of movement. From his vantage point, Riker could see her skill in action. She wasn't just moving, she was analyzing. Every ridge, every boulder, every shadow. Each became a variable in a deadly equation that she was solving in real time. Her finger hovered near the trigger of her rifle, ready to strike with lethal precision. "She's reading them," whispered Petty Officer Callahan, voice tight with disbelief. "Not just targeting, reading patterns, anticipating movements. It's like she's inside their heads." Riker didn't reply, he could only watch and wait. Suddenly Lena froze. A tiny glint of metal, almost invisible, caught her eye, a scope reflecting moonlight on a distant ridge. The second sniper. Lena didn't hesitate. She steadied her breathing, aligned the shot, and fired. The crack of the bullet rang out, but the valley was vast. The SEALs barely heard it. Yet the result was unmistakable. The sniper fell. 2 down, 8 remaining. The remaining snipers didn't panic. They adjusted, repositioning themselves in the shadows. They were professionals, coordinated, disciplined, and deadly. Their rotation was precise, calculated, and methodical. This wasn't a random firefight. It was an orchestrated hunt. And Lena Hart was rewriting the rules. She crouched, her body low, eyes scanning. She could hear the subtle vibrations of movement along the ridges, the faint shuffle of boots, the whisper of fabric brushing against stone. She identified another sniper left flank, partially obscured by a boulder formation. She adjusted her aim, controlled her breathing, and fired. Another body went down. 3 down, 7 remaining. Riker's mind raced. How could one woman accomplish what an entire squad could not? These weren't ordinary enemies. They were highly trained, synchronized, and now desperate. And yet Lena Hart was dismantling them systematically, moving through the darkness like a ghost. But then she paused and her body tensed. Something was wrong. She sensed it before she saw it, a subtle, almost imperceptible change in the terrain. Footsteps, lighter than before but deliberate. The enemy was adapting. They were anticipating her patterns. They weren't just reacting, they were planning. And planning in real time against Lena Hart was an unprecedented challenge. Riker hissed into the comm, "She's exposed, get her back." Lena didn't respond. She was focused, calculating, predicting. The hunter was becoming hunted, and yet she remained the predator. A faint movement on the far ridge. Lena's eyes narrowed. The fourth sniper was repositioning, and this time the precision was staggering. He had mapped her movements, almost predicting her approach. The ground beneath her boots seemed to tremble with anticipation. She adjusted her position, rolling behind a rock, her rifle raised. She fired. Another body dropped. 4 down, 6 remaining. The tension was palpable. Riker felt his own pulse accelerate. The remaining snipers were no longer hiding. They were coordinated, moving as a single unit. Each step they took was calculated to counter Lena's next move. But she was ready. Her senses were razor-sharp, her training and instincts combining into a lethal symphony of awareness and skill. The fifth sniper emerged, slightly exposed, attempting a flank maneuver. Lena anticipated it. She fired, the bullet striking true. The sniper fell. 5 down, 5 remaining. The remaining snipers were cornered but not defeated. They adapted quickly, taking higher ground, shifting positions, triangulating her location. Lena could sense it, subtle shifts in wind, faint echoes of movement, patterns in the night air. She was being hunted by hunters, but her focus never wavered. "Halfway there," she whispered, eyes scanning. "Stay sharp, they're learning." Riker's heart pounded. The SEALs were frozen, watching in awe as Lena moved through impossible terrain, outsmarting a network of elite snipers who had the upper hand by every measurable factor. Then came the sound that made Riker's blood run cold, a low, mechanical hum. A drone, thermal vision equipped, silently repositioning above the ridge. The snipers had support. Lena's eyes flicked upward. She had spotted it. She didn't panic. She simply adjusted, incorporating the drone's presence into her calculations. Every movement, every shot, every shift in position accounted for this new threat. Riker swallowed hard. He had trained soldiers to react under pressure, to adapt to changing circumstances. But this, Lena Hart operating alone against a coordinated sniper pack with drone support, was beyond anything he had ever witnessed. The night seemed to contract around her, thick with tension, anticipation, and danger. Every shot she fired was deliberate. Every movement was precise. The snipers, for the first time, showed signs of hesitation, aware that the hunter they sought to trap was far more lethal than they had anticipated. And Lena Hart moved onward, eyes sharp, senses heightened, understanding the patterns in the chaos that no one else could perceive. The network of snipers had underestimated her. They had assumed the rules of engagement, the old rules still applied. But Lena Hart didn't play by rules. She played by instinct, skill, and precision. And as the night stretched on, the SEALs realized something profound. The impossible was happening. One woman was hunting a team of elite snipers. And with every heartbeat, she was proving that in war, sometimes the rules didn't matter. Only skill, courage, and audacity did. 5 snipers down. 5 more remained. The night was far from over, and Lena Hart's hunt had only just begun. The night had grown heavier, almost suffocating, as Lena Hart moved with a predator's grace through the jagged valley. 5 snipers were down. 5 remained. Each movement forward was a risk calculated to the millisecond, yet she moved as if the darkness itself bent to her will. Every sound, every subtle shift in the terrain, every whisper of wind carried information. To her, the night was alive, speaking, breathing, warning. Chief Mason Riker's eyes never left her form. Behind the shattered remnants of their Humvee, he gripped his rifle tightly, heart hammering, mind racing with equal parts admiration and fear. He had been through firefights that tested the limits of human endurance, yet watching Lena Hart operate alone against a synchronized sniper pack was something else entirely. She was untouchable, yet exposed in a way that made every second a potential death sentence. The SEALs were pinned down in the valley, too exposed to move without becoming targets. Every instinct screamed retreat, but Lena's calm, precise movements forced Riker to hold his ground, watching as she hunted shadows that could easily have been the death of any other soldier. "Left ridge," she whispered into the calm, voice low, steady. "Sniper repositioning, he's moving too fast, too confident. I'll cut him off." Riker exhaled, feeling the tension tighten around his chest like steel bands. "Lena, be careful." But she had already vanished behind a crumbling wall of rock. Her movements were fluid, precise, and terrifyingly deliberate. In the eerie silence that followed, the first sound of agony tore through the night. A shout, a cry. "Callahan?" Riker's voice shattered the quiet. Petty Officer Drew Callahan, one of their best scouts, had been hit. His leg was bleeding heavily, a red blossom stark against the dull darkness of his fatigues. The sniper had found him, somehow anticipating his minimal movement. Riker dove to his side, pressing his hand against the wound. Blood seeped between his fingers, and Callahan gritted his teeth against the pain. I'm fine," he panted, but Riker could feel the heat of the blood soaking through. Lena's head appeared over a ridge, rifle raised, eyes scanning. "Don't move him unless you want him dead," she snapped. "They're circling. They want us pinned." Riker's heart pounded. The sniper pack wasn't just hunting Lena anymore. They were adapting, learning, trying to force a kill funnel. If they could trap Callahan, it could spiral into a massacre. "Fall back," Riker barked into the radio. "Pull him back, they're triangulating." "No," Lena said calmly, voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "If we retreat, they'll corner us. That's exactly what they want. We fight smart or we die trapped." Riker's chest tightened. She was right, but that didn't make it any less terrifying. He had trained soldiers for these moments, yet nothing in his experience prepared him for watching one woman control the battlefield in a way that defied conventional wisdom. Lena crouched, scanning the shadows, listening to the whispers of movement. Her breathing was controlled, rhythmic, almost meditative, even as bullets whizzed past, kicking up sparks from the jagged rock. Every instinct, every microsecond of training, every lesson from years in Montana's mountains, and countless combat deployments converged into one lethal precision. Then it happened. A shadow moved, subtle, deliberate. A sniper attempting to flank Lena, taking advantage of Callahan's vulnerability. Her eyes snapped to the movement. In a heartbeat, she fired. The sniper crumpled. The moment was almost surreal. 5 down, 4 remaining. And yet the cost was immediate and brutal. Callahan's cries echoed through the valley, a painful reminder of the stakes. One wrong step, one miscalculation, and any of them could become the next casualty. Riker glanced around, assessing the position. The snipers were adapting faster than expected. Each shot they fired was carefully measured, their rotations precise, their patience deadly. They weren't panicking. They were professionals. and Lena was the anomaly, a single variable in a system that had been designed to trap, eliminate, and dominate. Lena moved again, fluid and silent. She advanced to a new firing position, eyes locked on the ridge where two snipers were repositioning. She could hear them just barely, the shuffle of boots on gravel, the faint scrape of fabric. She took a breath, steadying herself, aligning her rifle, and fired. 6 down, 4 remaining. The remaining snipers adjusted. Their coordination was impeccable. They shifted positions, tried to predict Lena's next move, triangulating her with deadly intent. One sniper attempted a long-range shot from a higher ridge. Another moved into a hidden crevice to flank. The third ducked behind rocks, providing overwatch. Riker's pulse quickened. The SEALs were helpless from their positions. They couldn't move without exposing themselves. And yet Lena Hart continued, unflinching, reading the battlefield with a skill that seemed almost superhuman. Suddenly, a new threat emerged, a subtle hum above, almost silent, barely perceptible. A drone, thermal-equipped, hovered above the valley. Its presence was immediately understood. The snipers weren't just coordinating on the ground, they had aerial support. Lena's eyes flicked upward, noting the movement. She didn't hesitate. She incorporated the drone into her calculations, adjusting her trajectory, accounting for the additional threat. Every shot, every maneuver, every position she took was designed to survive not just snipers, but surveillance and lethal countermeasures. Riker swallowed hard. He had seen elite soldiers, heroes, legends even. But Lena Hart was operating on a level beyond what he had thought possible. She was alone. She was outnumbered. And yet she was holding the advantage. And then the ground beneath Lena seemed to shift slightly, as if warning her. A faint metallic click, a rustle in the rocks, subtle but enough to signal danger. The seventh sniper was positioning, calculating her predictable pattern. He was patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But Lena Hart had anticipated it. She rolled behind cover, firing 2 rapid shots in succession. The sniper fell. 7 down, 3 remaining. The valley held its breath again. Lena Hart was alive, and she had claimed victory over the first half of the enemy. But the cost was real. Callahan lay wounded, bleeding, a stark reminder that even the most precise strategy couldn't eliminate risk entirely. Riker's jaw tightened. This wasn't just a firefight. This was a test of endurance, skill, and nerve. And Lena Hart was proving, moment by moment, that she was capable of defying expectations, rewriting the rules, and surviving in a situation that would have killed any ordinary soldier. She moved again, eyes sharp, senses alert. The remaining snipers were adapting, closing in, relentless. The night was far from over, and as the wind whispered through the valley, carrying the scent of dust, blood, and gunfire, Riker realized that Lena Hart wasn't just fighting snipers. She was fighting time, darkness, and death itself. 5 snipers down, 3 remaining, 1 wounded SEAL, and the night had only just begun. Lena Hart's hunt was far from over, and the next moments would test not just skill, but courage in its purest, most brutal form. The valley had become a theater of ghosts. 5 snipers down, 3 remaining, and the wounded Callahan clutched his leg as Riker pressed bandages against the bleeding wound. Each second was a heartbeat away from disaster. And yet, Lena Hart moved with the precision of someone who had danced with death her entire life. Her eyes scanned the ridges, calculating, predicting. Every rustle of wind, every subtle shift of shadow, every vibration on the gravel beneath her boots told her more than any map or briefing could. She had sensed it for minutes now, a presence, something off in the way the remaining snipers moved. They weren't just elite, they were different. Riker noticed her pause, body rigid, eyes narrowing. "What is it?" he whispered into the calm. "They're not local," she murmured, voice tight, almost inaudible. "Not Taliban, not militia. Someone trained them, someone with resources." Riker's stomach twisted. "You mean?" "Yes," she interrupted, eyes locked on a figure moving silently across a ridge. Contractors, professionals, paid to hunt us, and they're good. The implications hit the SEALs like a punch to the gut. This wasn't a random firefight. This wasn't a local insurgent team. They were facing highly trained mercenaries, orchestrated with lethal precision, operating like a shadow army. Every move had purpose. Every rotation, every flare, every sniper's movement was deliberate. Lena crouched, her hands brushing against the jagged rock, analyzing every detail. She could hear them, the subtle scrape of boots on stone, the faint mechanical whir of their advanced scopes, even the soft metallic click of a sniper repositioning. Each microsecond of sound told her exactly where the enemy was. The first of the remaining snipers rose slightly to take aim. Lena fired. The bullet struck true. Another mercenary down. 6 down, 2 remaining. The remaining pair adapted instantly, moving with the precision of hunters who had been trained to anticipate elite soldiers' movements. One repositioned to a higher ridge for a better angle. The other flanked along a rocky crevice, attempting to trap Lena between them. She adjusted her stance, rolling behind cover and fired again. 7 down, 1 remaining. The drone above whirred silently, thermal sensors tracking Lena's movements, feeding information to the remaining sniper. It hovered like a predator, cold and mechanical, calculating her every step. She could feel its presence, subtle but insistent, and factored it into her strategy. Riker's eyes widened. She's accounting for the drone, she's actually accounting for it. Lena didn't answer. Her focus was absolute. She knew one wrong move could mean death, not just for her, but for the wounded SEALs relying on her precision. The final sniper was clever, patient, a master of anticipation. He didn't fire immediately. Instead, he shifted, seeking the optimal angle to catch Lena exposed. His patience was a trap. He knew the terrain, the shadows, and perhaps even her patterns. She felt it, a slight shift in the wind, a faint reflection of moonlight, a calculated pause that betrayed the sniper's presence. She fired. The final mercenary dropped. 8 down. 2 had been taken down by her and the others had fallen to her precise, lethal strategy. The valley fell silent. Riker exhaled slowly, his chest heaving. The impossible had been achieved. Lena Hart had systematically dismantled a professional, coordinated sniper network, alone at night, with no support. The reality of what had happened pressed down on him, heavy and overwhelming. But there was no time to celebrate. Lena's eyes scanned the ridges. She could see the faint glimmer of something metallic, a weapons crate partially hidden beneath rubble, disturbed in the chaos of the firefight. Her instincts screamed danger. She approached cautiously, rifle raised. The crate bore markings, serial numbers, stenciled codes. It was not local. The blueprints inside, the encrypted drives, and the communications gear were unmistakably advanced, U.S. manufactured. Lena's pulse quickened. Whoever had sent these mercenaries had intended to protect this cache. The realization hit her like a blow. This wasn't just an ambush. It was a cover operation for something far larger, far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. Riker joined her, eyes scanning the crate, face pale. This is American hardware. These aren't insurgents' weapons. Lena nodded, her jaw tight. They weren't hunting us just for sport. They were guarding this. Someone wanted this hidden, safe from exposure at any cost. The wind whispered across the valley, carrying the faint scent of dust, blood, and metal. Lena knew they weren't entirely safe yet. Someone else could be coming. Someone who had resources, training, and lethal intent. A faint movement caught her eye, the final sniper, the one she had not yet fully confirmed, sprinting to a higher ridge to take overwatch of the crate. If he reached that vantage, they would have lost the advantage entirely. Lena didn't hesitate. She sprinted, rolling across open terrain, her rifle at the ready. The sniper took aim. Lena fired mid-run. The sniper went down. Silence. The SEALs stared, awestruck and terrified. One woman, one soldier. And she had just neutralized the last threat in the valley before dawn, uncovering a cache that could have sparked a far larger disaster. Riker exhaled, shaking his head. How did you do that? Lena didn't answer. Her eyes scanned the surrounding ridges. Every instinct told her the danger wasn't over. The snipers had been the first layer. The crate, the hardware, the encrypted drives, they were part of something bigger, someone powerful, someone ruthless. And she had just put herself in the center of it. Callahan groaned, still clutching his leg as Riker pressed another bandage. Lena knelt beside him, eyes sharp, still alert to any movement. "They're not done," she said quietly. "This was just the first wave, someone going to come for that crate and for us." Riker's pulse quickened. He had faced impossible odds before, but the reality of what they had just encountered, a professional mercenary sniper network, a hidden weapons cache, advanced surveillance, was beyond anything he had prepared for. And Lena Hart, calm, focused, and deadly, was already calculating their next move. The night had been won, but the war for survival was far from over. 8 snipers down, 1 cache uncovered, 1 wounded SEAL, and a storm of danger yet to come waiting in the shadows. The night had been claimed, but the morning would demand more. The first hint of dawn stretched its pale fingers across the jagged Afghan ridges, brushing the valley in a cold, ghostly light. Lena Hart didn't pause. Her eyes swept the terrain, noting every shadow, every subtle movement, every unnatural shift in the wind. 8 snipers down, 1 cache secured, 1 wounded SEAL. And yet she knew the danger was far from over. Chief Mason Riker pressed another bandage onto Callahan's leg, his hands shaking with exhaustion and tension. "They'll be back," he muttered, almost to himself. His voice carried the weight of every firefight he had endured. "They'll come for that crate. They won't leave us alive." Lena's eyes never left the horizon. She had seen patterns, felt instincts that screamed the enemy was already moving, adapting, preparing a counterattack. The drone above, the one they hadn't been able to neutralize entirely, hummed quietly, scanning, mapping, feeding information. The snipers weren't finished. They were intelligent, coordinated, and lethal, and this was only the beginning. "We move now," Lena said, voice calm but commanding. "We can't stay here. They know we've taken out their team. They'll send reinforcements, and they're not amateurs." Riker nodded. "We move together." He tightened his grip on Callahan, hoisting him carefully. The SEALs followed Lena's lead, crouching, moving as silently as possible across the rocky terrain. Every step was measured. Every shadow could hide a lethal enemy. The first sign of the trap came almost immediately. A faint metallic click echoed across the valley, almost imperceptible, but Lena detected it instantly. Her head snapped toward a ridge, eyes narrowing. There, partially hidden behind jagged rocks, was a mercenary sniper, undetected by the SEALs, aiming for an elevated position to trap them in a kill zone. Without hesitation, Lena dropped to the ground, firing 2 rapid shots. The sniper slumped silently. Riker's pulse raced. "How many more?" he whispered, voice tight with fear. Lena didn't answer. She scanned the area, noting the subtle signs, footprints in loose gravel, displaced rocks, even the way the wind shifted around the valley. There were at least 2 more snipers moving into overwatch positions, and they had drones above providing thermal reconnaissance. This wasn't a firefight anymore. This was an ambush designed to annihilate anyone trying to escape. She adjusted their route, leading them along a jagged rock face that offered minimal exposure. Bullets whipped past, striking the ground with a sharp hiss. The drone above flickered, scanning for heat signatures, momentarily locking onto Riker as he hoisted Callahan. Lena dropped to her stomach, eyes calculating. "Move faster," she barked. "They're coordinating with that drone. One misstep, we die." A sudden whistle of a bullet tore through the air, striking near Riker's shoulder. He dropped instinctively, and Lena immediately returned fire, taking out another sniper attempting to cover the drone's advance. The SEALs were pressed to the edge of the rocks, bodies low, hearts hammering. Callahan groaned, pain radiating from his leg, but Lena didn't slow. She had eyes on every angle, predicting movement, calculating trajectories in real time. Every instinct screamed danger, yet her composure was unshakable. Then the trap fully revealed itself. From a ridge above, two mercenaries moved with terrifying coordination, attempting to funnel them into a crossfire. The drone buzzed closer, scanning for heat marking targets. Lena's mind raced, instantly analyzing the angles. They had seconds before they were pinned completely. "Cover me," she ordered. "I'm taking out the drone, you hold their fire." Riker nodded, laying suppressive shots toward the ridge. Bullets struck rocks, kicking up dust. Lena sprinted diagonally across exposed terrain, using the small dips and rises for cover, aiming at the drone's position. Her rifle rang out, precise and calculated. Sparks flickered as the drone's motors were hit. It spiraled and crashed, smoke trailing, neutralized. For a heartbeat, the valley fell quiet, the mechanical hum replaced by the low hiss of adrenaline. But Lena knew the danger wasn't gone. The remaining snipers adjusted, coordinating more aggressively now that their surveillance had been removed. A sniper's bullet kicked up dust near Lena's shoulder. She ducked behind cover, scanning. They were learning, adapting. They had been prepared for a lone hunter but hadn't accounted for someone who could anticipate, predict, and strike with inhuman precision. Riker pressed Callahan to his chest, moving with him to a safer position. "We can't hold this ground," he muttered. "We need extraction, now." Lena's eyes narrowed. "Extraction isn't an option yet. Not until we move that crate. It's too important, too dangerous to leave here." The realization hit Riker. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were protecting something far more lethal than they had imagined. Every mercenary, every sniper, every drone had been designed to ensure this cache never left the valley. And now, with the night fading into the first pale light of dawn, the final trap was closing. Another sniper revealed himself, aiming for Callahan. Lena fired first, taking him down, and then rolled to a new position, rifle raised. Her movements were fluid, predatory, and terrifyingly precise. "Two more," she whispered. "Stay close, we have to move fast." Riker nodded, breath ragged. He glanced at Callahan, whose face was pale but determined. "I trust you," he said. Lena gave a curt nod, her eyes never leaving the shadows. The last two snipers moved like shadows themselves, trying to corner them. Lena calculated their angles, predicting movement, adjusting the seals, path to force a narrow corridor where she could neutralize them without exposing the wounded. One sniper popped up behind a rock, taking aim. Lena fired mid-step, the bullet striking true. The final sniper cursed, attempting to retreat, but Lena anticipated the move, taking the shot that sent him sprawling into the dust. 8 snipers down, all accounted for, the drone neutralized, the seals alive though battered and bleeding. Lena exhaled slowly, scanning the area. Her pulse was steady, but her senses remained on high alert. The trap had been lethal, sophisticated, but she had outmaneuvered it. Yet the valley whispered warnings. This was only the beginning. Whoever had orchestrated this sniper pack and deployed the drone would not relent. Riker pressed a hand to his forehead, exhaustion and awe colliding. "You saved us," he muttered. "I don't know how you did it." Lena's eyes were cold, calculating. "We're not safe yet. They'll regroup. They'll come back, and next time they won't underestimate us." Callahan groaned, wincing from his leg, and Riker knelt beside him. "We move," Lena said, voice sharp. "We get that crate out of here before reinforcements arrive." The valley had grown quiet, but the tension was electric. Every shadow, every ridge, every breeze could hide death. And as the first true light of dawn crept across the jagged rocks, Lena Hart led her team forward, knowing that the night had been survived, but the war was far from over. 8 snipers down, 1 drone destroyed, 1 wounded SEAL, and an enemy still lurking beyond the ridges preparing for a deadly counterattack. The night was won, but the morning held new dangers, and Lena Hart knew she had only just begun her hunt. The first light of dawn burned weakly against the jagged peaks, casting long shadows across the valley where death had stalked in silence. Lena Hart didn't look at the sunrise. Her eyes were fixed on the terrain ahead, calculating, analyzing, predicting. 8 snipers down, 1 drone destroyed, 1 wounded SEAL, and yet danger still lurked beyond every ridge and rock formation. Chief Mason Riker pressed Callahan against his chest, moving slowly but cautiously across uneven terrain. Lena led the way, rifle raised, scanning every shadow and glimmer of movement. Their pace was deliberate, silent, yet urgent. They couldn't linger. The mercenary network had already shown that patience was lethal. "This crate," Riker muttered, glancing at the secured cache. "What exactly are we carrying? It looks advanced." Lena didn't answer immediately. Her eyes never left the horizon. Encrypted drives, experimental weapon components, satellite communication gear. Not something local insurgents could manufacture or use effectively. This was protected because it's valuable, dangerous, and someone is willing to kill for it. Riker's pulse quickened. Someone powerful. "Yes," she said simply, tone tight, "and they're not done." The valley seemed eerily quiet, but Lena could sense the tension building in the air, the subtle shifts in the wind, the faintest vibrations in the rocks, even the almost imperceptible hum of distant machinery. The snipers may have been eliminated, but someone else was coming. Reinforcements, professionals, prepared to retrieve what had been taken from them. She led them along a narrow ridge, a precarious path with sheer drops on either side. Every step required calculation. One misstep, one slip, and they would fall into the valley below. Riker glanced at Lena, admiration and fear etched into his features. "You make it look simple," he muttered, voice tight. Lena didn't answer. Her focus was absolute. She moved like a shadow, precise and fluid, every step calculated to minimize exposure while maintaining speed. The SEALs followed, trusting her instincts even as exhaustion weighed heavily on their bodies. Then came the first sign of the next threat, the faintest whirring sound high above, almost masked by the morning breeze. Lena's head snapped upward. A drone, bigger and more advanced than the last, hovered silently over the ridge, scanning the area with lethal precision. "They've upgraded," she muttered. "Thermal sensors, motion tracking. This isn't just surveillance, they're hunting us." Riker's jaw tightened. "We can't outrun it, not with Callahan wounded." Lena adjusted her position, rifle trained on the drone. She fired. Sparks erupted as the bullet struck its casing, but the drone remained functional, only partially damaged. It was clear this wasn't the same model as before. This was a high-grade military or contractor drone, capable of tracking even subtle heat signatures. "Keep moving," she instructed. "I'll handle it." The SEALs pressed forward, navigating the rocky path with utmost care. Bullets kicked up dust near them from distant ridges, long-range snipers, newly deployed, trying to force them into a crossfire. Lena fired back with precision, taking out one sniper attempting to flank them. The tension was suffocating. Every heartbeat, every movement could be the last. The enemy had anticipated every standard tactic, every predictable maneuver. They had learned from the first engagement. And yet, Lena Hart moved with unshakable focus, using the terrain, shadows, and even the rising sun to her advantage. They reached a narrower section of the ridge. Lena's instincts screamed danger. She froze, crouched, scanning. From above, 2 mercenary snipers revealed themselves, using the rocks to mask their approach. One aimed directly at the SEALs, calculating the angle, the trajectory, the likely escape path. The other attempted to cover him, coordinating their fire. Lena didn't hesitate. She fired twice, striking the sniper in cover, then pivoted, taking down the second with a clean, precise shot. The SEALs exhaled, but only briefly. The drone buzzed closer, descending aggressively, scanning for heat. Lena aimed, calculating the lead, and fired. The shot hit a motor, sending it tumbling down the ridge with sparks and smoke. The threat neutralized for now. But the real danger revealed itself moments later. From the next ridge, a larger group of mercenaries appeared, moving in formation, coordinating their advance. They weren't solo snipers anymore. This was a full extraction team, heavily armed, disciplined, and ready for close combat. Lena's pulse quickened, but her focus never wavered. She signaled to the SEALs. "Split. Move along the eastern ridge. Keep the crate secure. I'll cover you." Riker's eyes widened. "You'll hold them off alone." "Yes," she said simply. "Trust me." The SEALs moved quickly, taking advantage of Lena's cover fire. Bullets whipped past, striking rocks and debris with sharp hisses. Lena fired with deadly precision, every shot calculated to suppress, eliminate, and create space for the extraction. She spotted another sniper attempting to flank her from a rocky outcropping. She rolled to cover, firing 2 rapid shots. The sniper fell. Another mercenary aimed at her, but she anticipated his movement, firing mid-step and neutralizing him before he could fire. The valley echoed with the sounds of gunfire, rocks shattering, and distant echoes of battle. Lena's focus was absolute. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was buying time, ensuring the SEALs and the crate could reach safety. Finally, after what felt like hours compressed into minutes, the SEALs reached a safe zone beyond the ridge. The wounded Callahan was secured, the crate intact. Lena joined them, rifle still raised, eyes scanning the surrounding ridges for any remaining threats. Riker pressed a hand to his forehead, panting. You saved us again, against impossible odds." Lena didn't lower her weapon. "This isn't over," she said, voice steady. "Whoever sent them won't give up. They have resources, planning, and lethal intent. They'll come back stronger, better prepared." The morning sun climbed higher, illuminating the jagged rocks and dust-strewn valley. Lena's eyes scanned the horizon, calculating, predicting, preparing. 8 snipers had fallen. The drone threats neutralized. 1 wounded SEAL, and a cache that could spark global consequences. But she knew the true danger was still out there, waiting, watching, planning the next strike. 8 snipers down, 1 drone destroyed, 1 wounded SEAL, 1 critical cache secured, and a far deadlier enemy preparing a strike from beyond the ridges. The night was over, but the war was just beginning, and Lena Hart knew the next move would demand everything she had: skill, precision, and courage beyond measure. The sun had risen fully now, burning away the last shadows of night, but the valley remained a landscape of peril. Lena Hart's eyes swept the ridges with the same intensity she had carried through the night. 8 snipers down, 2 drones destroyed, 1 wounded SEAL, and a crate of deadly secrets now under their control. Yet she knew the real danger hadn't arrived yet. Whoever had orchestrated the mercenary sniper team had resources, intelligence, and the audacity to strike again. And Lena Hart had a habit of showing up where the enemy least expected. Chief Mason Riker's breaths came in short, shallow gasps as he kept Callahan supported against his shoulder. The SEAL's face was pale, sweat mingling with dust and dried blood. "We've made it this far," Riker said, voice strained. "But how do we get out without being slaughtered?" Lena's eyes narrowed. "We make them come to us. They're counting on us fleeing. They expect fear. They expect hesitation. They won't get it." Her words carried a cold, sharp edge, the kind that cut through panic and replaced it with calculated resolve. Every muscle in her body was coiled, every sense attuned. She had faced impossible odds before, but never with lives depending on her every decision. The first sign of the final ambush appeared as a low rumble in the distance. Lena's eyes snapped to the ridge across the valley. Heavy armored vehicles, men in tactical gear, drones hovering aggressively above, the reinforcements had arrived. This wasn't just another sniper team. This was a small strike force, trained, lethal, and ready to eliminate anything standing in their way. Riker stiffened. There. Professional, Lena finished for him, voice calm. They're contractors, ex-military, highly trained. They want the crate and they won't stop for anything. Bullets whistled across the rocky landscape as the first wave advanced, testing their defenses, probing for weaknesses. Lena didn't flinch. She had already mapped every ridge, every boulder, every potential line of fire. She directed Riker to move Callahan to a defensible position behind a large rock formation, creating a temporary choke point. Hold position, she commanded. I'll draw them in. The enemy advanced, overconfident, expecting fear. Lena fired strategically, each shot precise, each movement calculated to channel them into a narrow path. Her rifle barked repeatedly, echoing off the valley walls. A drone swooped down for reconnaissance. Lena's quick reflexes brought it down mid-flight with a clean shot. The mercenary team paused, surprised. Their coordination faltered. They had underestimated her. From her vantage point, Lena observed the subtle shifts, how they moved in tandem, the slight hesitation before they re-established formation, the flicker of doubt in the eyes of the men leading the advance. She saw their rhythm and predicted their moves. Riker, she whispered into the calm. They're reorganizing. They'll try to flank from the eastern ridge, prepare suppressive fire. Riker nodded, adrenaline surging. The SEALs opened fire, each shot carefully aimed, each movement synchronized with Lena's direction. The mercenaries were skilled, but they weren't prepared for this level of tactical precision. Lena advanced, using rocks and shadows as cover, firing shots that pinned their forces, forcing them into tighter positions. The ground was chaotic, dust, smoke, and gunfire blending into a surreal dance of danger. Each second was measured, every movement life or death. The lead mercenary, noticing Lena's effectiveness, tried to suppress her fire with a burst from an automatic weapon. Lena ducked, rolling behind cover, then fired twice, eliminating the man before he could adjust. The enemy's formation cracked, momentum faltering. Riker glanced at her, eyes wide. How do you do it? She didn't answer. Her mind was elsewhere, calculating the next sequence, anticipating the final strike. She had trained for scenarios like this, but nothing prepared her for the stakes of the human lives depending on her precision. The final wave attempted a coordinated flanking maneuver, two squads moving from different angles to converge on their position. Lena anticipated the move, using terrain and shadows to manipulate their path. She lured them into a narrow corridor, where the SEAL's position could hold advantage. One mercenary broke formation, trying to reach the crate. Lena's rifle barked twice. He fell silently, dust puffing around him. The remaining enemy hesitated, momentarily stunned by the precision and lethality of a single operator. Then Lena did something unexpected. She stood, exposing herself partially, forcing the enemy's focus onto her. Her voice carried across the valley, cold and unwavering. "You want it, come and take it," she shouted. It was a challenge, a calculated risk. And it worked. Their formation tightened, advancing recklessly, assuming they could overwhelm her. Lena's movements became a whirlwind of efficiency, firing, ducking, rolling, repositioning. Each shot reduced their numbers. Each maneuver funneled the remaining forces into the SEAL's field of fire. Riker and Callahan held their position, firing suppressive rounds as Lena manipulated the battlefield like a maestro controlling an orchestra. Each move was deliberate, each action part of a larger strategy. The last two mercenaries advanced, one providing cover fire while the other attempted to seize the crate. Lena anticipated the move, firing first at the cover shooter, then pivoting to strike the second with surgical precision. Both fell. Silence fell over the valley once more, broken only by the labored breathing of the SEALs. Lena exhaled slowly, scanning the area. 8 snipers had been eliminated over the course of the night, drones destroyed, reinforcements neutralized, the crate intact, and yet the tension in her chest refused to release. She knew the true threat remained. Whoever had sent these mercenaries would not forgive failure easily. Riker approached, supporting Callahan. His face was pale, sweat and dust mingling, yet his eyes held awe. "Lena, you just did the impossible." She gave a small nod, lowering her rifle but keeping eyes vigilant. "The impossible is just preparation plus timing. We move now or they regroup." Together, the small team navigated the final ridge, the crate secured, their path clear but their minds alert. The valley behind them was a testament to a night of survival against odds no one could have imagined. Lena Hart had faced trained snipers, drones, traps, and a mercenary strike force, and emerged victorious. Yet the gravity of their mission wasn't lost on anyone. They had prevented the crate from falling into deadly hands, saved their team, and survived against every expectation. As the first rays of sunlight touched Lena's face, she allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. Exhaustion tugged at her body, but adrenaline and purpose surged stronger. She had not only hunted the hunters but had protected lives and stopped a potential catastrophe. Riker glanced at her, admiration and gratitude plain in his expression. "You saved us all," he said quietly. Lena didn't smile, her eyes scanned the horizon. "We're not done," she said softly. "Not yet, but today we survived, and that's enough for now." The team descended from the ridge, carrying the crate and the wounded SEAL, moving toward extraction. The valley behind them was a scarred battlefield, a silent witness to one woman's extraordinary skill, courage, and relentless will. Lena Hart had faced the impossible and won, but she knew, deep down, that the world would continue to challenge her, and the hunt was far from over. 8 snipers down, 2 drones destroyed, 1 wounded SEAL, 1 deadly crate secured, and the night survived. Lena Hart had faced impossible odds, outsmarted the most lethal hunters, and emerged victorious, proving that skill, courage, and determination could bend fate itself.